Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. How many of you have asked, how do I do to develop a career at community college? What does it take to be a successful administrator? Well, today we have the honor to have with us Dr. Kris Kimbark. She's a successful community college administrator, seasoned educator, a university professor, and she's going to tell us what's the roadmap for our audience to become a successful administrator or manager at a community college level. Kris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Antonio.
Absolutely.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we start by letting you introduce yourself and kind of letting the audience know about your career and how do you get to where you are right now?
Okay. As Dr. Corrales said, I'm Kris Kimbark, and I received my bachelor's degree in sociology and psychology with an emphasis in communications from Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant, Oklahoma, and it's pronounced like that, Durant.
Durant.
Then I went to Michigan State University and got my master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. I worked for 12 plus years in brain injury rehabilitation, and then I saw a position at College of the Mainland, which is a community college in the Gulf Coast region. And I applied for a TRIO position. It was TRIO programs are federally funded through the Department of Education. They provide services to low-income, first-generation, and students with disabilities. I got that job, and I have been at College of the Mainland for about 18 years now. I have moved from a director of student support services into an associate vice president for student services and student conduct, and then moved into the dean of students position, which I'm currently in.
That is fantastic. Now, for the folks that are looking at us right now, they may be in pre-K through 12 right now, or they may be professors, or they may be looking at developing a career as administrators at community college. What does it mean to be an administrator at community college? Well, how's that dynamic? How's your day by day? For somebody who's looking at us right now and are curious about, what does it mean to be an administrator at that level?
Well, we sit back, we put our feet on the desk and eat bonbons all day. I'm kidding, actually. So every day is a different day. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of initiatives. College of the Mainland or community colleges in general have changed a lot. There's a lot of accountability. We really focus on student success. Everything is about student success, and I don't know if you're familiar with the...
Okay, can you elaborate for the audience? What does that mean? Because we hear that terminology over and over again when we're talking to community college professionals, and student success is becoming a prevalent concept out there. So can you explain a little bit about what does that mean?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because student success, and I caught myself getting into that terminology. It's almost like the new fad word or fad term, but student success really is about getting students on the right path. And the days of higher education where students can find themselves and explore and spend 8 to 10 years in college, those days are behind us pretty much. We're really focused on assisting students in identifying what they want to do and getting on the right pathway, and then providing wraparound services to make sure that those students are successful.
So they reach their goals in terms of academics, right?
And their goals are really, in a community college, goals are different than a 4-year. It could be that students are coming to us to enhance their work skills. They could be working professionals that just want to improve their work skills. It could be that a student is coming to us to get their general education requirements out of the way before they go to a 4-year university. Or it could be that students are coming to us to get a terminal degree or an associate's degree. Students can come to us and earn up to $70,000 a year to start by getting a petrochemical degree, an operator's license or something like that.
Because they're getting a specific certificate or a specific training to a job that you said could be high paid, without necessarily getting a bachelor's degree.
Correct.
That is fantastic. What about your relationship with the high schools? Because I know that that's one of your biggest feeders. I mean, big of in terms of enrollment. What does it mean from an administrator perspective, having those liaisons with different high schools in the area? Is it an easy dynamic, or it requires a lot of work? Or?
It depends on the school district, and it
Okay.
depends on the things that are, happening in the school district at the time. Sometimes college is a large priority, or it's a big priority for the K through 12, and sometimes there's other political issues that are going on that makes it a little bit less of a priority. So having good relationships with K through 12 are really important. We have academic advisors that actually work out in the high schools and help promote college-going culture in the high schools. Again, it depends on the school district, it depends on the counselors, it depends on the administrators, whether it's easy or difficult. Everybody's always really nice.
Absolutely.
It just may not always be the priority at the moment. If there's bond issues going on, or if there's, Santa Fe recently had a shooting. So
Exactly.
there's other alternatives. There's other priorities that sometimes take place.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I have noticed all the time is have to do with the dynamic between both entities in terms of where are we going to be providing the services. Are we going to be providing the services at the particular high school, or are the students going to be coming here to the community college? And that's kind of that dynamic. But definitely, I know for a fact that community college play a tremendous role in providing opportunities to students to get dual credits before they go to college formally. So I think that's a great thing. Now, what are the things that, in terms of your job, interest you the most, or are more fun? When in terms of as a community college administrator, what are the things that you really like?
Well, I love working with students, and I really love all aspects of my job. Some pieces of the job are a little bit more challenging than others, but I absolutely love working at a community college. Assisting low-income first-generation students it's a lot of fun, and working with students who never thought they would have the opportunity to go to college, never thought that was in their future, and showing them some alternatives. That really is a great part of my job. I also, which may sound a little strange, but I also enjoy the student conduct aspect. And the reason that I enjoy the student conduct aspect is because at the community college, we're not focused on a punitive system. We really more are focused on social justice and ensuring that students are learning from whatever mistake they may have made, as opposed to saying you're expelled or you're kicked out of the college.
So even at a college level, which is interesting, because at a college level, you still feel that you have a social responsibility with these students.
Absolutely.
To integrate into society.
Absolutely.
So it's like almost like a continuation of a pre-K through 12, goals in a way, I think you have more hands-on on those high school students than anybody else in terms of the first 2 years, and so you feel that you still have that social responsibility there.
Yes, social justice is huge in conduct at universities and community colleges.
Now, I want to ask you, going back to the student success concept that you just mentioned briefly, can you give an example of what does that concept imply in practical terms? You're talking about, student success, you can mention any career you want, and what does that concept imply in terms of your dynamic in the college?
Well, what's interesting is that, and as you know, funding for colleges has changed. So we have really shifted to more of a performance-based funding model. Even though in Texas, we're not exactly there, but we've got 10% of our budget that is set aside that we earn through performance.
So if you perform better, if you graduate more students, if you
graduate more students, if they successfully complete their core requirements, things like that, then you earn points.
You earn more points, and you earn more money, basically. Correct. Okay.
So that was somewhat challenging for community colleges in the beginning, but the community college presidents around the state got together and made a proposal that essentially said, we can work within these parameters. And the reason is because, like traditional four-year colleges they have different students. Students can come to us, and their idea of success is different depending on who that student is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just want to enhance skills, then we could say that if you came here and you took a couple classes, you got a certificate, or you got a promotion in your job, we would say that's a success.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really a way that we can quantify that success to show the state. Does that make sense?
Correct.
So that's somewhat of a challenge, and when I was thinking about some of the challenges that we have, that's one of them, is because I can talk to students and determine what, or not I can, but we can as a community college,
as an organization.
We can, determine what it looks like for a particular student to be successful.
Yeah, for a student A, this is what a success could look like.
That's right.
But maybe for the state, it's not exactly what success looks like.
Exactly.
So that's a kind of having that balance may be a challenge. So, for example, if a student wants to work, like you said, in a petrochemical, and that particular student acquire a certificate that's gonna allow him to work or allow her to work in that petrochemical, is that what you consider a success story in terms of the organization and the state, or are there missing pieces there that the state may say, be careful, you still haven't completed your job as an organization?
No, it's actually a degree. So they would receive an Associate of Applied Science in PTech, or petrochemical.
Okay.
And so when a student would receive that degree, then yes, it would be seen as, from our side, it would be a success because
Correct.
the student completed what they wanted to do.
Correct.
But the ultimate success is when they actually get a job in the community,
Gotcha.
which is
Okay.
another big piece of what we do. Is
So
we want to
you
make
guys
sure.
help those students to get a job? Do you get prepare them or for interviews or that kind of liaison with companies?
We have very good working relationships. As a college, we have very good working relationships with our community employers, because we're attempting to educate our students so they can then come into our community and become tax-paying citizens.
Absolutely. So that's fantastic, because that way you guys can coordinate also your curriculum somehow with what the companies want and what the students' interests
Absolutely.
are based on the local interests. So I think that's the beauty of a community college, and as an administrator, it must be fascinating having to develop policy to meet those needs, because you really have hands-on in there. I think you kind of covered this following question, which is one of the biggest challenges, and I guess kind of the areas where you were talking a little bit of. You can expand on that if you want a little bit more, but it kind of, in terms of that administrative job at a community college, what are the biggest challenges that you face that are part of your job, but those are the part of your job that you say, wow, these are my daily struggles that you have to face every day.
Well, I think, as with four-year universities and every other K through 12 educations, unfunded mandates are always difficult. So when you're told that you have to do something but you're not given any money to do it, that's always difficult. Mm-hmm. So there's always challenges, and always I call them opportunities for growth. Mm-hmm. We have improved tremendously our relationships with K through 12 and with the universities, and I think that maintaining close relationships with people in the community is challenging, because everybody's busy. Everybody has a lot to do, so we have to be very purposeful in maintaining those relationships to make sure that our services that our students are served.
Yeah. So what about, now that you mentioned it, what about your relation with universities? Because we talk a little bit about your dynamic with the high school, but what about your dynamic with four-year universities that are out there? How's that dynamic from the administrative perspective?
Well, we have articulation agreements with most four-year universities. University of Houston Clear Lake is our biggest feeder, so a lot of our students go to UH Clear Lake. Okay. And it's just important for us to, we have four-year universities who come on our campus, and we have like transfer days. We have advisors that come to campus and meet with our students, so they're reviewing their degree plan and making sure that they're on the right track. And
that's really interesting.
And we have developed pathways, and pathways are really a huge initiative that we have undertaken, that all community colleges are undertaking right now, and that's to make sure that when a student that a student is seamlessly moving through the K through 12 into the community college and then on to the four-year university. And so that
you
it's
don't have
a
that
seamless process.
traumatic change in there.
Yes.
So I guess you guys have to align certain curriculum and certain classes with four-year universities to kind of
Yes.
allow that to be a smooth transition for students.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, why do you think that community colleges are such a valuable venue for students out there? I mean, because a lot of folks ask themselves who are not knowledgeable about community college about their value, and of course I'm aware of it, but I want you to talk a little bit about that from the administrative perspective, the critical role that community colleges play in our society for a regular student there who may not have a lot of resources and maybe looking for a way to develop a career and get a good income and be a good productive citizen.
Community colleges essentially were the response to the federal government when it came to access.
Mm-hmm.
Higher education used to be only for the wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
and the white wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So community colleges were really in response to access,
Mm-hmm.
is to make sure that all students, regardless of their background, had access to higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Access is not as big of an issue as it once was. Therefore, our focus has shifted somewhat. There's many reasons that a community college is an excellent educational opportunity for students. One is the cost. The cost between a 2-year and a 4-year is significant.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who are self-paying, that's big. For people who are receiving financial aid, it's big, because you want to save as much money as you possibly can. Most people do.
Absolutely.
When they're going to school, and pay as little out of pocket as they can. So financial aid opportunities are a possibility. We also have a low faculty to student ratio.
Mm-hmm.
I know that at UH Clear Lake you guys also have that low faculty to student ratio, but we really provide wraparound services. So we identify what is the potential obstacles that students are going to face, and we try to intervene before it even happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that one-on-one, our academic advisors develop a relational versus a transactional relationship with students. So they're really developing a relationship. Our president walks around and knows our students by name.
That's
so
fantastic.
We're really almost like a big family,
Mm-hmm.
where students can feel comfortable. Higher education is a different world.
Mm-hmm.
That it uses different language.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for us to understand where our students are coming from, and that terminology is ours and it's yours, it's not theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to assist them in learning that terminology and figuring out ways to navigate that sometimes complex pathway of college.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, going back to the financial aid part and the cost, a lot of folks are not aware that, at least in Texas, most of the community college courses that are taken are considered when going to a state university.
They're transferable.
They're transferable. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's a way definitely for a lot of students out there who may not have the resources, or may need financial aid to save a lot of money and still getting a really decent degree. It can become engineers, can still become even doctors or nurses. So can you talk a little bit about that dual credit opportunity that students have with the community colleges?
Yes, there's two different issues that you brought up. One
Mm-hmm.
is the transferability of credits.
Mm-hmm.
The credits are transferable. You just need to make sure as a student that you're working very closely with your academic advisor and making sure that the classes that you're taking actually are on the pathway to feed into a 4-year university. So, if you were to take there are classes that you could take that would not be transferable, but they're not the general education requirements.
Correct.
So like if you took a class in maybe medical assisting or something, that may not be transferable. So it's really important that you just meet with your academic advisor, because all of our credit classes are transferable.
Correct.
The other issue that you brought up is dual credit. We have a huge dual credit program, and essentially what that means is students are getting college credit while they're still in high school.
Okay.
Our dual credit program is actually phenomenal, and we've got a phenomenal collegiate high school, and that's where students actually get an associate's degree before they graduate from high school.
Wow.
And that's really exciting.
How many hours are we talking about? How many, more or less, how many college hours?
60.
Wow. That is
So,
fantastic.
or a few more, but
So almost
60.
students in high school almost start taking those dual credits almost in 10th grade or 11th grade. They start taking as early as at those ages to start,
They actually can start taking them as freshmen,
Wow.
but
that is fantastic.
they need to work with their high school counselor and with the dual credit
Yeah.
advisors to
Getting
make
that
sure
coordination.
that's appropriate, because it's not for all students.
Exactly.
And not all dual credit students will, leave high school with 60 credit hours, but our collegiate high schoolers typically do.
Okay. But at least even if they don't get the 60 hours, they can get a lot of hours there under their belt, and you said you can transfer. A lot of them can transfer to.
All of them can transfer.
All of them can transfer.
So they're essentially taking, typically the dual credit students are taking 6 hours in the fall and the spring, so that's 12 hours a year.
Wow.
And then they sometimes will come here for the summer and take a couple classes in the summer.
Exactly. So that way they can still build
Yes.
it out. That is fantastic. You can save a lot of money there. All right. Going back to your life as an administrator, what recommendations would you give to a pre-K through 12 educator, even if you're a principal or superintendent or a teacher who is willing to explore the community college world and eventually become who you are right now? What career path would you recommend to take?
Well, I would recommend that people get to know their community college people. So, get to know the faculty, get to know the administrators, and work with the people at the community college. There's a lot of opportunities to coordinate, especially with with the high schools. So if you're working in the high schools or you're working in K through 12 and you've got the desire to come to a community college, come and hang out, get to know people. And in terms of the career track, it really depends. It really depends on what your area of interest is. So, we've hired many high school counselors, many high school instructors or teachers who have come to us and become academic advisors. If you have a master's plus 18 hours, you could become a faculty member. So there's a lot of opportunities at community colleges.
And let me ask you, what about the requirements? Because I've heard that lately the community colleges are raising the bar in terms of the degrees that they're asking. So what about, do you need to have a doctorate to start, or do you think it's a good idea to pursue your doctorate? I mean, what is your take on that as an
It's absolutely a good idea to pursue your doctorate. You get paid more when you have a doctorate, and you bring more to the classroom when you have a doctorate. So I absolutely would encourage people to obtain a doctorate, and I would encourage you to go to UH Clear Lake because it's a great program.
I appreciate that.
So it's not required, but but you likely will lose out to someone who does have a doctorate, because we have a lot of individuals who apply even for like academic advisor positions that have doctorates.
Exactly. So it's becoming a more prevalent, even if it's not a requirement, it's becoming a more common degree.
Which means that the competition is higher for those same jobs.
Correct. Well, Kris, I want to thank you one more time for being with us today. Folks out there, remember that we have these video manuals in Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales and StarlingEvaluationAssessment.com. Please help somebody today, and see you next time.
Thank you.